It's time for Supply Chain Now Radio, sponsored by Apex Atlanta and Talent Stream. Broadcasting live from the supply chain capital of the country, Atlanta, Georgia, Supply Chain Now Radio spotlights the best in all things supply chain. The people, the companies, the technologies, the best practices, and the critical issues of the day. Now, here are your hosts.
Broadcasting live from the supply chain city of Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Scott Luton. I have with me here today Allison Krache Giddens with Wintech Inc. Good morning, Allison.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. We're continuing a series, Profiles and Leadership. So we really enjoyed collaborating with you over the last couple of years, and want to take the next 15 minutes or so to get to know you better and a lot of what you do in the community and in the industry. So for starters, tell us more about Wintech and what they do.
Sure. Wintech is a precision parts manufacturer. We specialize in aerospace. We're a small parts provider to companies like Lockheed Martin and Pratt & Whitney. We deal a lot in aerospace and tooling and fixtures. We've been around 30 years and are veteran owned and operated.
Awesome. And what do you specifically do for the organization?
Well, since we've only have about 47 people at Wintech,
okay.
Small business means I wear a lot of hats. Primarily, I handle operations and a lot of the order management. I joke that I'm kind of a liaison between the customer and the folks on the shop floor, so I kind of interpret what it is that the customer wants and vice versa. So that's kind of every day is something different.
And what is it like to work in the aerospace industry?
Aerospace industry is something very different. My background is actually in social sciences. So when I came on board to Wintech, it was flying by the seat of my pants. But it's different because I feel like I'm lucky because it's small business and it's in manufacturing, so I get kind of the best of two worlds. It's always something different, always learning. There will always be somebody in the room smarter than you that you will be able to learn from.
Wow. And do you draw a lot of comparisons between the aerospace industry and the automotive industry?
I have a lot of colleagues in the automotive industry. I've never personally been in the automotive industry, but from what I can gather, the similarities, there are many more similarities than there are differences, primarily in the supply chain management of it all. Dealing with your suppliers and processors and the customers and making sure everybody talks to everybody else.
And a lot of sense of urgency in both industries, I bet.
Yes, they needed it yesterday.
So switching gears a little bit here, in your opinion, what makes Georgia such a great environment for manufacturing, supply chain, logistics, you name it?
So I think not only geography makes us a good place, because we're so close to things like Savannah Port, we're near railroads, we've got the Atlanta Airport for logistics, we have Memphis Hub for things like FedEx. We have all these things going on, but we also have these fantastic educational institutions in our backyard. So everything from Georgia Tech, UGA, Chattahoochee Technical College. You have all these different certification programs popping up. If you need the resource, Georgia has it.
That sounds like a great T-shirt tagline there.
I'll sell that.
So one of the things that I've certainly come to appreciate in the last couple of years that you and I have collaborated is Leadership Cobb, your experience there. We both seem to value the need for leadership and hands-on leadership more today than maybe ever before. But tell us about Leadership Cobb and your experience with that program.
So Leadership Cobb is a program that is hosted by the Cobb Chamber of Commerce. And I went into it thinking, oh, this is great. I'll get to know a little bit more about the inner workings of Cobb and get a little bit of knowledge on the public safety side and armed forces side and these bits and pieces. What I did not expect is to leave with 49 new best friends. And that's essentially what happens is you're in a room with these folks for almost a year and you have these shared experiences and you learn so much from these people, and at the end of the day you'd realize you'd stop to do anything for them if they asked, and they would do the same for you. So it's these developing business and professional relationships with the ultimate layer of the personal trust that you really learn to grow.
So it seems like it really led you to a whole heightened new value of networking and the need for a network, a professional network. And what year did you finish up?
2015. So I feel like it was just yesterday. Our class is a very tight-knit one, as is many of the class years. The great part too is that just because you're there in your 2015 year, you get to know other people in other years. They do a great job of selecting cross sections of industries. So I joke that I'm the manufacturing representative because there aren't too many of us in the program. But it's a wonderful way to kind of find out who you are as a person and as a leader, and to help others develop and help others develop you.
Love it. And the way is it like building blocks? Each class as it comes together, so as you had and developed those 49 new best friends, I think is what you put it, each class kind of intermingles in building blocks of the business community. Is that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So that's a good way of putting it. It's once you quote graduate from the program, then you're asked to be a part of the different leadership groups to put on the program for other people and for other classes. So it's really neat too to see other classes come together. And I'm currently in leadership positions helping with the class of 2019.
Okay.
And that's fantastic because you see a lot of similarities in the group between their class and our class. And it's been a blast.
Very neat. So speaking of leadership, what are the 2 or 3 most critical traits in your mind that good leaders have to have?
To me, good leaders have to have decisiveness, gratefulness, and perspective. Decisiveness because if you're not willing to make a decision, then anybody behind you to follow might not trust where it's going. Gratefulness because the best leaders I've seen are always grateful for those who have gotten them there and who help keep them there. Perspective because the best leaders have been there, done that, and the best leaders can see things from all angles. They're empathetic. They're not speaking to hear their own voice. They just get it.
So decisiveness, gratefulness, and perspective. That's great perspective to glean from your. So you were, switching gears a little bit again, one of my favorite phrases, you were instrumental in establishing the Georgia chapter of Women in Manufacturing. So kind of shifting gears from where a lot of your efforts in your local community, local business community, to really serve in the industry. What made establishing the local chapter of WIM so important to you?
Well, I attended a national summit for women in manufacturing. I believe it was up in Ohio several years ago. And the more fantastic women I met, I realized none of them, I wasn't FaceTiming with any in Georgia. It was a lot of Midwesterners, and that was great, but I thought, surely I'm not the only manufacturer in Georgia. So I started asking questions, started asking around, and sure enough, there were a lot more people like me who were looking for people like me. So a bunch of us found each other and came together, and the rest is history. We've had a great group of active people.
And you've grown pretty quick in a short amount of time, right?
Yes.
We're talking the warm-up conversation. You founded the chapter.
Gosh, it was probably 2012-ish, 2013-ish was kind of when we started hosting a couple of events, and it's really grown the past 3 years. It's been fantastic.
Well, we've appreciated Apex Atlanta. We've appreciated collaborating with you on a couple different events, and look forward to continuing to support your growth. Yes. So we were talking also earlier about all the different types of programming that WIM does. Give us a high-level overview of some of that.
Sure. So we have we love the plant tours. That seems to be people most want to kind of get a glimpse into what everybody else is doing every day. So plant tours are very popular. We've also had great success pairing with Georgia Manufacturing Alliance and groups like APEX and several other industry-related organizations where we're not recreating the wheel. We don't really see it as competition for members, so to speak. We see it as just added value. So we have leadership series, we have webinars to help with your career, with learning how to network, with learning how to negotiate better for your salary, different things like that overlap a lot in the manufacturing industry, but also some women's related issues that we're all looking for.
So speaking of women's issues, and we're I know the two of us are well aware of the gender gap that exists in industry, and how while we've made some gains in recent years, still the need to really communicate the gap and why it's important. The male and female aspect of diversity doesn't start and end right there, but as I've heard other leaders put it, you can't begin to tackle the talent gap that exists without effectively tackling the gender gap. So, Allison, in your opinion, what are some of the things that manufacturers need to do in order to more effectively address the gender gap?
So I think first off, manufacturers even have to acknowledge that it exists. I think a lot of times it's just easier to kind of check the box and move on. In many of the small businesses cases, it makes it even tougher because myself, I'm in operations, but I also have to check the box of HR, and I'm also making sure that we're doing everything related, OSHA standards, things like that. So it's just one more thing to do. But I think manufacturers have untapped resources out there. So groups like Women in Manufacturing, groups like APEX, groups like GMA, all these different organizations, they have created the material. They have that tangible something that you can offer to help bridge that gender gap and to tell the world, hey, look, we're open to men and women alike. If you like this kind of thing, you like science, you like math, you like logistics, then come to us. The stuff exists. Manufacturers don't have to recreate the wheel.
Yep. Especially if you like solving problems, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Putting out fires.
Yep.
So what do you see, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, for 2019 from a win perspective, what's next?
So we were very fortunate this year where we had a very small local board. We had lots of folks step up and say, hey, I want to be part of the leadership team. So because of the flexibility of the WIM chapter situation, we were able to bring more people on board. So this means that because of the bigger leadership team locally, we're going to be able to be doing more things across the state.
More bandwidth.
Yes. So we're excited. We're hoping to do lots of things throughout Georgia, not just Metro Atlanta. So I hope to see some good things.
Absolutely. And as a fellow industry association volunteer, it is so challenging to get good leaders, volunteer their time and their resources, and most importantly, their bandwidth and their heavy lifting to organizations. So that's great to hear, and we look for big things in 2019. So as if you did not have a full plate already, between WinTech, and Leadership Cobb and Women in Manufacturing, the Georgia chapter, and it seems like you've got a role in national organization for women as well. Let's talk about the Dave Krache Foundation, which really got my attention when you and I had lunch a few months back. So tell us what the Dave Krache Foundation does.
Sure. Dave Krache Foundation was formed in mid-2012 as the mission was to help local Metro Atlanta kids in need play sports when their families were in tough financial positions and may not be able to afford the fees in full. So it all started with my father, who passed away unexpectedly in a few years prior to that. My mom, sister, and I were kind of struggling with how do we do something in his name. We thought about a scholarship, we thought about different things, but kind of stumbled across his love for sports, and he was the kind of guy that was always pushing people to do things for people in need when they were able to. So that just kind of evolved. So we host events, we pay for kids to play sports and have a great time.
And I think you answered part of my next question, which is around the why. Why do you create? That comes across loud and clear there. What are some of the Dave Krache Foundation's biggest needs right now?
Biggest needs are volunteers during our really big events. We've got an event coming up in February, right before the Super Bowl, actually, Super Bowl Eve, or excuse me, the Big Game Eve. The Big Game Eve. So we have an event, the Big Game Eve. It's a wine tasting, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We have that, and then we also have our big Sports Fanatic 5K in the summer. So we desperately need volunteers. We are known for being one of the local races with the biggest and best volunteer base. So we push for that. And other things is sharing on social media. So we want to make sure people know what they're doing and hearing from the parents of how much this means to them.
So how can folks get involved? Let's start maybe with the website address and then any other information that you'd like to pass along.
Great. It's www.davekrache.com, and that's spelled DAVEKRACHE.com. Everything's there. You can click to link to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can donate there. You can volunteer there. You can read testimonials. Check out to see how it works, the whole process, like how we find the kids. And so that's another way that people can help, is if they know of a family in need that might not be a family that's going to speak up and ask for help themselves, that person, that friend, can be that liaison to help get us in touch.
So DaveKrache.com, and we've got a big event coming up, a wine tasting, the big game eve, as you put it.
Yes.
We don't want to get any licensing
Nope.
issues with the
February
NFL.
2nd, yes.
February 2nd, wine tasting, and then of course one of the next big events will be the 5K in Kennesaw this summer, right?
You got it. Sports
Okay.
Fanatic 5K.
Awesome. DaveKrache.com. So looking ahead, it's hard to believe it's almost December. We kind of talked about what 2019 looks like for WIM, especially the Georgia chapter. Let's pose the same question to you about WinTech for 2019 as well as the foundation. So what big news can you share about WinTech in 2019?
So WinTech, we've got some really great things going on, and I can't spill the beans too much
Right.
because it's kind of still in the works. But it's some great stuff that we're looking to shake things up a bit. That's going to be very exciting. We just took on some new equipment at WinTech, a very large mill and a very large lathe. So we've expanded capabilities for a lot of our customers. We've got a plethora of capabilities.
Good work.
So it's if you check out our website at wintech.net, it's we've got a list of the machines that we have along with the machine bed capabilities and such. So we're excited about that, especially.
So expansion and more expansion. And that was wintech.net, WINTECH.
You got it, and there's a dash in between that win and tech.
Okay,
So
WIN.
win-tech.net.
win-tech.net. Terrific. And then the Dave Krache Foundation, what does 2019 look like there?
We are going to push for over 1,000 runners at our Sports Fanatic 5K. So this will be the 4th year. The first year we were told by fellow race directors not to expect more than 300 or 400 people, and we went for 650 the
Wow.
first year. So the next year and the following year we grew by 100 or so each year. So we're pushing this year to really, really go crazy.
Wow, that is those are definitely BHAGs,
Yes.
big, hairy, audacious goals. Well, Allison, Krache, Giddens, thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate not only our collaboration, but appreciate what you do within the community and within the industry, and we look forward to a big 2019.
Absolutely.
Thanks so
you.
much.
Thank you.